Now I'm very excited. Welcome back. A great capper and longtime friend of the show. You've heard him on many sports radio broadcasts and podcasts across the land. You can find some of his work at vegasinsider.com and majorwager.com. I'm very happy to welcome back Mr. Brian Edwards from Major Wager and Vegas Insider. You can follow him on Twitter, or X as we like to call it now, at Vegas B Edwards. Brian, we have the heart of the football season now. Had you on before the season started. How the heck you doing, my friend?
Doing well. No complaints, except for your Badgers, who I've got a pretty substantial investment on to win the Big Ten West. Now, just for giggles and as a slight hedge, I did put just a touch on Iowa on the money line last week, just because I knew y'all would basically clinch it with a win. But yeah, no, I'm going to lose on that, I think, unless Iowa falls apart, which is very possible.
They lost everybody.
But other than that, I'm good.
Iowa might not get 50 yards passing a game now that they lost their second tight end after today. And I think a sprinkle on Minnesota's money line wouldn't be the worst idea coming up this weekend. But yeah, I mean, I try to warn everybody the Badgers aren't quite ready, and I didn't put any money on them to win the Big Ten West. And it's just a situation with just too much change going on. And Mordecai was okay, but that defense is not as good as it was with Leonard. And I almost didn't put this damn profile picture on the background here, the Wisconsin Camp Randall, because I'm so pissed at him for losing that game, because, you know, we still kind of control our own destiny in theory. Not saying we would have won against the Big Three, but, you know, it's just
still
like
right now?
There, right? No, before. I said before last weekend.
Oh, right.
Last
That's
weekend,
why I put a little bit on Iowa money line. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, I wish it was a bigger line. You know, I mean, the money line +8 was that +300 or something. Maybe you got a little sprinkle on.
Not even. I think it was like 270 or 280.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I think Wisconsin could be a play-on team this week because that quarterback looked like crap, but he's a freshman coming in a weird situation. I think maybe they turn it around a little bit, but Illinois is real bad too, and they got their revenge last year against us, so that's gonna be another interesting game. And yeah, it's like, what can you do? We can't get over the hump yet, but to be honest with you, I'm still optimistic on the hires. And, you know, it's
sure. Yeah. No, Fickle's going to be good, I think.
We got out Big Ten. It's like my handicap for the game, and I don't know why I didn't bet Iowa. I did because if Wisconsin scored, you know, that maybe Iowa doesn't score the whole game. But like, it was 180-yard run. And the handicap was, it's going to be a field position game. They have the best punter in college sports. You know, he's better than NFL punters right now. You see that kid punt, it's ridiculous. And that's how they win. They punt and play defense. And it's like their defense will force turnovers. I said if the Badgers are equal in turnovers, they win by 10. If they're down in turnovers by 1, they might win. If they're down 2, they probably lose the game. And what happens? They're 3-to-1 turnover ratio. It's just the way that Iowa plays ball. And they lost Allen their first half of the game, and then Mordecai in the second quarter, and that was the end of Wisconsin. But you know, he'll be maybe back for bowl season, but all bets are off on Wisconsin most likely. But let's talk about some happier things, like this week of college football. There's some pretty big matches here. And before we get to that, I always like to ask my experts a few questions. And you know, I guess I get a question for you, and it's a very general question. It's a kind of a public question, but I'd like to ask you who you think the best conference in college football is. Now, you can use your own parameters because you can make arguments for a lot of things, but use your own parameters. What do you think right now today is the best conference?
Oh, that's the easiest question you could ask me. Is the Pac-12, and there's no questions about it, and it's by far. I mean, we've known that since mid-September. For sure. The SEC is as bad as it's been in a long time. Long time. And certainly, I don't even think it's close. There's not a conference even close to the Pac-12 right now. I mean, I guess, I mean, maybe the SEC is not too terribly far behind, but the Big Ten, I know they're, you know, top head with Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan. But like you were saying, everybody in the West has been a disappointment. I mean, Illinois, until last week, had been one of the nation's biggest appointments, but that was a big win for them last week. So, yeah, it's Pac-12. It's not even close.
I agree with you. And if we can get rid of the Big Ten West, then it would be the Big Ten. But we can't get rid of the Big Ten West. It's part of it. You know, it's like kick them out of there.
Minnesota's awful. Yeah.
It's bad. And
Minnesota's awful too. Yeah.
totally awful. And it's just ugly. Nebraska, Northwestern, come on. But here's the thing. The sad thing. Would they take a one-loss Oregon over a one-loss Bama, even if they both make it in the seedings? No, they're not. They'd put a one-loss Georgia, one-loss Bama, certainly ahead of Oregon right now.
Well,
And
now
that's
are
just
you saying?
because of
Are
the
you?
way.
But hold on. Are you saying a one-loss Bama or Georgia that wins the SEC championship against a one-loss Oregon that doesn't win the Pac-12 championship? Or no, Oregon would have to be the Pac-12 champ if they are only in one loss, right?
I think so. I think they would.
I think both would easily get in. I think both would easily get in,
Right.
along with
I suppose
a
if
big
let's
dog
just
from the
say
Big Ten.
Michigan runs the table, Oklahoma runs the table. You have an unbeat Oklahoma, unbeat Michigan. Maybe you have Georgia with one
then the
loss,
Pac-12 and
and
SEC.
Bama beats Georgia with one loss. Yeah, I almost think they might take Georgia and Bama and just kick the Pac-12 off, just because that's the way they do things out there. But this is why we have a 12 game. Hopefully, why you have a 12 game, 12 team playoffs next year. But that's cool to watch. And the reason I ask that is because it's just going to be, that's the interesting part of 14 playoff, is like there's going to be a lot of fighting and arguing going on, if these situations get close. And to be honest with you, Brian, it's looking like Bama might be a one-loss team. It's looking like Georgia might not have a loss until the SEC championship game. So that's why I ask it.
Yeah. No, I get the question for sure. I'm just saying, well, first off, I'll say this. It may surprise. LSU is going to win the SEC.
Woo! Okay. Well, they have two
There you
losses,
go.
Florida State and that Ole Miss stinker just right at the end. Yeah.
They control their own destiny in the SEC. Oh, wait. Maybe Ole Miss needs to lose. Yeah, I guess Ole Miss needs to lose, but that's all that LSU needs.
Yeah, Ole Miss needs to lose. I'd have to look at
one of the losses is FSU non-conference.
Okay. Do you have like a top 4 or 5 teams that you like to share? In what order?
Yeah. So, to be honest, like there's really no separation in the top 5. I mean, it's just a little group of teams, and it's sort of like I write down Georgia 1 and Michigan 2 every week, but I feel so stupid about it every week because neither one of them impresses me at all. I mean, Georgia has impressed me one time, that pimp slap they gave Kentucky, but they lose points on that with the way Missouri went into Lexington and bashed them. So, and then Michigan just hasn't really played anybody yet. Let me see. I'll get to their page real quick. So they've I mean, who's the best team Michigan's played? Nobody. They haven't played
nobody.
You know what? UNLV's the best team they've played. UNLV's the best team they've played.
That's sad. I mean, Rutgers.
Shout out, Barry Odom. You're doing a hell of a job. Barry Odom's doing a hell of a job.
You can almost say that about Penn State. West Virginia is the best team they played, but it's still. But here's the thing: they're covering the spreads. At least Penn State is, and it makes it so they're going above the power rated expectations, right? So even though Franklin likes to do that, we'll get into that game. But I have Michigan number 1. I have Texas number 2. And I'm just looking from a power perspective. I don't care if Texas lost to Oklahoma. They were like -3 in the turnover margin there. And it was that last drive, some kind of boneheaded coaching there. I think Texas is still a little bit better than Oklahoma. But I also have it very close too. I have Michigan, Texas, Ohio State, and Georgia. And then Florida State's and Oklahoma is kind of right under that. And Bama's like right under them. It's not far. And then Penn State, Oregon, Notre Dame, Washington. So I think the Pac-12 as a whole is much better than everybody else, just because I have teams like Washington State and Oregon State, and now Arizona creeping up. I have some of those teams ranked a little bit higher, but yeah, I'm not impressed with too much of the SEC. I guess maybe after a couple weeks it might straighten itself out. But USC's loss was definitely ugly to Notre Dame, and I was on Notre Dame, thank God, last week.
Yes. So here was my top 10 last week, and I started to update it last night, and then I just got sidetracked because I had a bunch of live bets on Liberty.
Oh dear,
-2.5. And
oh no, I saw the -2.5. I'm like, I hope you didn't take -7.5.
No, I did -3.5 before I did the 2.5. I did the -3.5, and then I think that was when Middle Tennessee. Oh no, then I think Liberty tied at 28-28, and then Liberty got like that 70-yard touchdown pass on the screen. But anyhow, so this is what I had last week, and I don't know that anybody really messed their ranking up. But I'm being dead serious when I say that. Like, there's basically no separation from any of these teams. So Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Texas 3, Oklahoma 4, Alabama 5, Ohio State 6, Washington 7, Oregon 8, Penn State 9, FSU 10. I think Washington's better than Ohio State now, so that's who I would bump up. I'd probably bump Washington up
Woohoo!
ahead of Alabama as well. So let's see. So that would be Washington 5. I don't need to downgrade Oregon. Penn State's probably. I think them and Ohio State are about the same. And we'll find out this weekend. Although
I'm
it's a
sure
road
will.
game. I love FSU's offense. I think their defense sucks. I love LSU's offense. I think their defense sucks. Same thing with USC. I mean, none of these. There's not a team out there that doesn't have warts. And look, Oregon State can beat anybody, and I don't think anybody can go to Corvallis and win. And I guess we get to find out. I forget if it's Oregon or Washington that goes there in November. Here I go. We got Washington goes
Washington.
there
They
November
they're home for the Apple
18th.
Cup against State, but they go to Oregon. They go to Corvallis, so that's difficult for Washington, and that's why
Yeah. Washington's
Oregon
not going to
should.
win there.
I don't think so either. I'll
I don't
be
think
all over
I
Oregon
don't think
State,
I
and
don't think anybody's winning there.
no, probably not. It's it's funny. It's a smaller stadium, but it's got one of the greatest home field, man. And it's really a shame that they couldn't find a conference just based upon media numbers. It's kind of sick to think about. It's just media numbers is what they're looking for. It's sad, and I would, as a Big Ten fan, welcome them in. I think if you're gonna have two super conferences, then what are you gonna what's stopping you? Just the media? I don't know. But that's me as a fan talking, not me as a businessman talking either. So I could be completely wrong
Sure.
about this whole thing. Well, hey man, real quick before we get into games, do you have a buy low or sell high team coming into week 7? Like, it doesn't have to be for this week's spread, but maybe it's one that's a little underrated, one that might be a little overrated that we can fade or bet on.
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, if I go to the Mac, that's going to be annoying for most of our listeners, isn't it?
No, it won't. No, it won't. It will not, my friend. We have plenty of action going on at the odds breakers. Go to the
How the
Mac.
hell is Eastern? How the hell is Eastern Michigan a double-digit underdog to Northern Illinois? Are you kidding me? Eastern Michigan's 21-1-1 against the spread. Their last 23 matches as a road
Okay.
underdog. The
There you go.
underdog king, Chris Creighton, Eastern Michigan plus 12.5. We're
There you
buying
go.
the underdog king Eagles. We're buying them low.
I love it, man. God, I even checked my number on that one
There
yet. I
we go.
didn't even get to that game yet. Are you kidding me? I have this closer to a pick 'em. I have NIU like -1. What?
Yeah,
What's going on
now
with
Kiev.
this?
Now
I'm embarrassed to say that. I'm
now
embarrassed to
no.
tell you that.
No. That's what you want. You want to have a double digit different. But now the thing is Chris Creighton doesn't talk injuries. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen an Eastern Michigan player listed on an injury report in the last, because I've been betting them all the time for like 6 or 7 years now. And so it scares me. It makes me think somebody's hurt, is what it makes me think. And I think I do have one Eastern Michigan beat reporter on my Twitter following, and I think he tweets like twice a week. He's such a disappointment to me.
Hit him up, man. Hit him up. Let's
I've
bring
hit
him
him
on.
up. He's
Come
never
on.
returned it. He's never replied. I'm done
It's like,
hitting him up.
like these damn gambling addicts. They go, the only thing I got is my
Right.
popularity right here because of
Right.
the situation with Chris Creighton not talking about injuries. It's like this dude gets probably like
There it
50
is.
texts a day, my friend from us.
Yep. People like
Oh,
us.
hey man, I don't care how many injuries he has. This is freaking a big spread. I'll be on it. So no, there you go. Free pick off the bat.
yeah.
No, I love it. Yeah, my stupid whatever. I gave out Arizona as underrated, and I haven't bet them since. They've been covering the spread, and I don't know why I haven't been betting them. I did that a few weeks back, and now I'm kind of looking for another one that might be a little bit underrated right now. And it's funny. I'd like to say Oregon State still, because I think they're just as good as some of the top teams here. And I think at home you bet them, and on the road you either stay away or fade. It's just one of those home road splits type teams. And I talked about your Gators about that. I said, except for last week, I said I'm not fading them last week, but I just looked at the Gators as, especially when they went to Kentucky. I'm like, this is a team that doesn't show up on the road, and there's a couple SEC teams like that, and we'll be getting into that. But I'll stick with Oregon State. I think they're tough, and they're going to tough it out the rest of the season. I think you'll find some value at home. Let's go.
I was all over. Oh, sorry. I was real quick. I was all over the Gamecocks last week. I was fine with losing that money because I knew whatever I lost, I was just getting it right back with Oregon State. I knew that. I knew I had that sitting there waiting for me. And actually, I got because of the Gamecocks, I had loaded up on them so heavy that I was down big Saturday afternoon. But then I went 4-0 at night. I had the Missouri-Kentucky over. I had Oregon State, and I had the home favorites Notre Dame and North Carolina. So the night session did me really right last week.
I went to bed when Boise State was leading like 30-15. I had the over 60.5. And I wake up, it was Boise State lost to Colorado State 31-30. I was like, yes, got it by a half point. Finally on the right side of that.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice to wake up to that stuff.
Yeah. I went back and was looking at how they rallied, and I was like, are you kidding me? This is like Peyton Manning on Monday Night Football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when he was with the Colts like 20 years ago. I mean, they were down with like 5 minutes left. They were down 30-14, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
something like that. It was a while.
Less than 5 minutes, actually.
Right, wasn't it? Holy cow! It was. I can't remember exactly how many minutes.
Yeah, so they cut it. They they scored with 1:53 left. And we're still losing. And then they scored on with like a few seconds left.
Okay, so they must have had 3 timeouts and kicked it or got an onside. So I wish I could have went back and watched it. I didn't record that. But it is what it is. We were happy to cash that. And let's get into this week and see if there's any other games that we can cash on. Pittsburgh versus Wake Forest is the first one we're talking about. I wrote down -1. I'm going to check out our odds screen here and see if it's even. Oh, I got to hit load more. I hate it when you got to hit load more. Jesus. And see where that spread is. I know it moved down a little bit for Mr. Wake Forest. And it's a game that I'm going to be on just based on the spot, my friend. I mean, a lot of people are metrics based. It's still -1 here at Betfred odds. Totals 45.5. But this is a spot play more than metric for me. This is Clausen here with a little time here in this situation. I think Pittsburgh's in a massive letdown spot after beating Louisville, and they got, if you have to remember, they got outgained bad that game. And what was it? 444 yards to 288, yet Pitt won 38-21. Now, I mean, I have this closer to pick them from a numbers perspective, but you know how Pittsburgh, they benched Phil Jurkovec and they put in Christian Vallejo, and he did okay, but it's not like he's lighting it up. He's got 45% completion percent, 3-2 touchdown to interception ratio. It was a big spot for them last week coming off the bye. Louisville just got done beating Notre Dame. And then, of course, they're going to lose this game. And I was on Pitt last week, +8 and a little money line sprinkle. But the Deacons, they ranked 63rd in offensive success rate, 42nd on defense. Pittsburgh's 108th in offensive success rate. And I don't know if this quarterback's enough to get them, kind of back into that, middle area. They have the better defense right now. And Pittsburgh's always got a good defense. But Wake Forest can stop the run. And that's what I kind of like. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be able to throw it. Wake Forest only allows 3.95 rushing yards per attempt. So I'm kind of looking at the handicap via metrics. It kind of favors Wake Forest a little bit. And the spot itself, I mean, they come up and beat an undefeated Louisville team, conference, feeling fat and happy, even though they got gained by over 150 yards. This is a big spot for Dave Clawson. And I like Clawson as a coach. I'm taking Wake Forest -1, my friend.
Yeah, no, I love Clawson as a coach. A monster head coaching advantage for Wake. I can't play it until I know what's up with Mitch Griffiths because I know he had been struggling, and they went to Kern, and Kern gets injured and is now out a couple weeks, and Griffiths is injured and questionable. I don't know how deep you've looked into that. I'm
It looks
assuming
like
you're
he's going to
real
play.
optimistic he's going to play. Okay, I
Yeah,
got you.
I
Because
am.
I mean,
I'm very.
I because I'm looking at I don't know if any of these other guys have ever even taken a collegiate snap. So, but yeah, no, I agree. If Griffiths plays, Wake Forest is definitely the play. And I will just say that you know Wake Forest's offense has not struggled like this in a long time. But their defense hasn't been this good in a long time.
Mhm.
So yeah, if Griffiths is ready, I think. I mean, God, they held Clemson to 17.
Mhm.
I guess they. Yeah, I guess they haven't played that great. Even now that I look at some other scores, but
Not great.
you know, yeah, but I mean, their defense is usually just complete garbage, and to hold
Well,
Clemson to
Pitt's been
17,
playing
I thought
horrible
that was
too,
yeah. And
except
look, the
last
under.
week.
Yeah, and I don't know that the under is the way to go because now Wake Forest usually has totals in the upper 50s, low 60s. Now we're talking mid 40s. So I don't know if the value is there on the under. The under has cashed in 4 straight for Wake, but all those numbers were except for last week, which was 48.5. The others were 53.5 or higher. But no, I agree. If Griffiths is good to go health wise, I think Wake Forest is the play. But because you know he may not be at 100%. I just don't know. I don't think I'll get involved.
Well, he finished the
But I don't
game
disagree with
against
anything you're
Virginia
saying.
Tech. Yeah, he finished the game against Virginia Tech, I believe, when Kern got hurt. And so, he got benched, but he finished the game. And Kern's stats wasn't exactly lighting it up either. He did have
Right.
166 yards, 14 for 22. He wasn't doing it for me either. But a big spot for Griffiths to kind of reprove himself here. He's got a second life, and it's a spot play more than anything. But I like it as one of my better plays for the week here, just based upon
It,
that and the coaching
it,
advantage.
and I'll just add, I think Pitt's, uh, I think Pitt's probably the biggest disappointment in the country. I mean, definitely the biggest disappointment in the ACC, at least to me.
Well, hopefully my Badgers aren't the biggest disappointment in the country, but Pitt's definitely a massive disappointment. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think a lot of teams that were supposed to be middle or bad or the teams that are supposed to be good are pretty good. I mean, I'd have to relook at the preseason power ratings. Clemson's a big disappointment because they have 2 losses, but it's not like they're completely done. They're still winning games.
Right.
So
I mean, I still
yeah,
think they can win a lot of football games, and they've got good teams like North Carolina will have their hands full at Clemson. Notre Dame will have their hands full at Clemson, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, Clemson still got some big games, and they're going to win a lot of them, I think.
Michigan State's
But
the
yeah, they
biggest
are a
disappointment.
disappointment.
Michigan State's probably the biggest
Oh,
disappointment.
I had no expectation for them though. I thought Pitt was going to be.
I did bet
See,
their under
and
as
I think
well.
I think Drakovic's the biggest disappointment in the country from an individual standpoint. I mean, I love that guy. His first year at BC, the COVID year, he was outstanding that year. And then he just went to hell in a handbasket the last couple of years. Now, it wasn't really all on him. He got hurt week 2 of 2021. And then last year's O-line was garbage. So, but we don't need to spend any more time talking about Dracovic or Pitt or Narduzzi.
All right, let's move on to South Carolina. They are going to Missouri here. Missouri's laying 7 points. The total is 60. You picked this game. I'm wondering if you have a play on it.
I've got 2 plays on it, but my favorite
Ooh.
one is the over. I got in early in the week at 58.5, but I still like it at 60, which is where it was at last look. And well, I'll let you maybe if you're looking. Oh, I just want to
Yep,
get to
60.
my.
It's 60 -7 and 60. You're correct.
Okay, cool. So I made it 64. The over 6-1 overall for Missouri, hitting in 5 straight games. The combined scores for Mizzou in their last 4 games have been 59, 88, 59, and 61. And their defense has been a disappointment to me, but their offense has been a big surprise. And their receiver group is big time. Brady Cook is one of the bigger surprises to me in the SEC. 71.0 completion percentage, 2,046 passing yards, 14-3 TDINT ratio, 4 rushing touchdowns. Now, Luther Burden had his worst game by far, only 2 catches for 14 yards last week, but he still got 56 receptions, 808 yards, 5 touchdowns. I would still say he's a first-team All-American right now. The running back, Cody Schrader, 648 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns, 5.7 yards per carry, and they're facing a South Carolina defense that's ranked dead last in America, 133 out of 133 FBS teams in pass defense, 124 in total defense, 108 in scoring D, giving up 31.3 points per game. The over is on a 7-2 run for the Gamecocks, dating back to last year. And it's 4-1 in its last 5 games, and those 4 overs have had combined scores of 80, 61, 67, and 68. And look, man, if you're having a combined score of 80 against my Gators, man, you are not playing any defense. And on the flip side, Spencer Rattler's playing terrific. Even without Juice Wells, who was first team All SEC last year, he basically hasn't played it all year. I mean, he played like 2 drives against Georgia, and he played a little bit against North Carolina, and he's already been ruled out again this week. And I don't even know if he's going to play the rest of the year. But Rattler still 73.6 completion percentage, 1,724 passing yards, 11-4 TDI and T ratio. I don't know what his rushing yards would be if they didn't subtract sacks like they don't in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Even with all the sacks, and I'd bet $50 it's at least 150 yards worth of sacks, if not 200. He's got 129 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns anyway. And Xavier Legette is at a breakout year, 37 catches, 716 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So I think over 60 is the play. But I'm also going to play Missouri as well, just for less. And I got 6.5, but I'm fine with it at 7. If it went to 7.5, I would buy the half point to 7 or pass. But yeah, I don't necessarily sense that South Carolina is going to lay down, but they have struggled with Missouri regardless. They've lost 4 in a row in this rivalry. 3 of those wins have been by 7 or more, and one was by 7, and then there was one by 20. And there was one by 13. And, I just don't know where South Carolina's psyche is right now. And look, when they have left Columbia, 2 road games, 1 neutral with North Carolina and Charlotte, and then they were at Tennessee, at Georgia, they've lost those games by margins of 14, 10, and 21. So give me the Missouri Tigers, but again, more for money management purposes on the over.
All right. Well, I kind of agree with you on the over here. It did get up, and I did miss a couple numbers on this one. But I actually at 7 like the Gamecocks. And what's funny is this is a little bit of a spot for me too, because they did go to Clemson at the end of the year last year, and they did get a road win against Clemson. Of course, that was after the big Tennessee win that they got last year. But my thoughts is that Missouri, I think they're overachieving a little bit. I saw that Kansas State win, and I lost a bet on that, but it was a 61-yard field goal. They had to tie it at the very end to get it, and they're better than I thought. It's just a weird spot for them. I think they might look past South Carolina a little bit. Now I know they're going to the bye at least, and they don't have to face Georgia immediately. But you wonder if Georgia is on their minds a little bit. South Carolina, I think, had the harder schedule so far. Who have they played? They played obviously Florida. They played
North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia.
At Georgia, at Tennessee, Florida. North Carolina, I think that's a pretty hard schedule. And I'd say Missouri had a medium schedule. They obviously had that choke against LSU at home, and maybe they made up for that. I don't know. They're coming home here and probably want to do something from their home crowd, but I just think that the schedule is definitely harder. And South Carolina's dead evens in yards per play, even though they had those 4 really tough games out of the 6 that they played. So, it makes me think that South Carolina is a little bit above average. I think that Missouri's a good team. I think South Carolina is a little bit above average. Missouri's defense kind of sucks, like you said earlier. They can definitely, they rank 105th in opponent explosive plays. So there's teams that actually get big plays against them. Of course, they kind of trade blows back and forth, and they get some big plays. But South Carolina's offense actually ranks 26 in this explosiveness. So it's kind of like they're a little bit higher in explosive plays themselves. So like you say, Spencer Rattler likes to find the big play.
You're frozen for me, Kiev.
I like the over as well, but I'll take the side at the +7, Brian. And I think we'll just have a little disagreement on that one. You back here?
Not a hard. Not a yeah. Oh yeah. You were frozen there for a minute. It's not a hard disagreement. South Carolina's been a play-on team for me all year. I had them against North Carolina. That was a loss. I had them against Mississippi State. That was a win. Had them against Tennessee. That was a loss. I had them last week. That was a loss. So wait, I've gone 1-3, but I've been back in their overs. I've had several of their overs for winners. So no, I get it. I mean, look now they've found a running back. I mean, Mario Anderson has been he's the D2 transfer who's come alive these last 3 games. He's played extremely well. In fact, I had his stats jotted down on one of these pages. Yeah, here we go. He has the last 3 games. Yeah, 26 for 88 yards and a touchdown, 10 carries, 101 yards for a touchdown, 20 carries, 98 yards against the Gators, had a touchdown catch. So last 3 games, 56 carries, 287, 2 touchdowns. So now they found a running back. I love South Carolina's offense. And imagine how good it would be if Juice Wells was healthy. I just think their defense is absolute garbage, and I love Missouri's offense, and I just love their receivers going up against the worst pass defense. So I'm not implying it's going to be a blowout. I think it'll be a close game for a while, lots of points, but over the course of 60 minutes, I think Mizzou will pull away and win by 10-14. But yeah, nothing wrong with us disagreeing a little bit.
All right, fair
My
enough.
big play is the over.
All right, baby, let's go over, and maybe it lands at 7. Who knows? Michigan State's +24.5. Total is 48. This is usually a big game, but Michigan State and Sparty is just so awful this year. And you know what's funny about this Mel Tucker? I was thinking about it. It's probably good that this happened to him, because now those lawsuits, he can say he said, she said. He's a terrible coach, and it would have been more and more obvious how bad he is if he stayed at Michigan State. And I can give a care what happens. There's lawsuits, and I don't get involved in all that. And we'll see what happens from that. And now D'Antonio's helping him out a little bit as a consultant. And, they jumped Rutgers last week, but then they crapped the bed completely last week. And they barely covered that spread at the end. Thank God for them being boneheaded with their timeouts. Rutgers was at the 20 at first down, and they called all their timeouts before 2 minutes, and it just didn't do anything for them. And then all they did was take knees. Now, I'm not going to go through the stats. It's stupid. I mean, seriously, 2.5 net yards per play advantage. I know Michigan still hasn't played a lot of people, but it's ridiculous to go through the stats. They'll have a few fans there, but this is mostly Sparty territory. One thing I'm just going to say is that no matter how bad this matchup is for Sparty, you still have kids that are facing some kids that they played with in high school, they played against in high school, and they're taking this game seriously. They don't care who's coaching them. Just because of that, it makes me lean to Sparty the first half, and you get 13.5 right now. I'm going to watch this spread. If this goes to a 14, I might have to sprinkle a little bit on Sparty in the first half. That way you're going to get all they got. Maybe even look towards the first quarter if you can get a 7.5. But I still wouldn't be surprised if this thing is gone by the end of the first quarter and they're up 21-0 still. I mean, you're not going to be surprised, but it's just a spot where your in-state rivalry, one team just looks absolutely awful. Michigan's kind of been under the radar in I would say over the radar. They're not playing anybody and they're just beating them up, kind of like the Penn State phenomenon. But I'm going to give them a lean right now at 13.5. Do you have anything on this game?
Not this game. I'll just say that Jimmy Sexton did his best work ever in hustling Sparty and making them think that LSU was interested in Mel Tucker and making them give him a $90 million contract. And look, when that's elite territory when I'm talking about Jimmy Sexton's best work as an agent. He's made a lot of people a lot of money. But no, that was his Picasso, if you will. That was the greatest work he's ever done. And Mel Tucker should be thanking him forever and always, even if he doesn't win his lawsuit and all that. The money he's already collected.
Yeah, for sure. That was the biggest robbery since. Let me think. Who's a bad contract? What's his name on the Washington Nationals? Since that contract with that pitcher there, I forgot his name offhand, but yeah, he hasn't even pitched really since he's gotten paid $253 million. Strasburg, that's it. Strasburg. Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Man, I've been out of baseball for 10 years and I knew that.
Yeah, there you go. All right, well, let's move on to another game that you picked. Clemson versus Miami. This is now down to 3. The total is 48.5 from this open 3, and then it went to 4, and then went back to 3. So I'm thinking there might be some disagreement between me and you on it, but I'm gonna let you go first and see if we line up or disagree.
Well, look, on the side, I would lean Miami, but I can't trust Cristobal, and I don't want to root for those dirtbags, so I'm not gonna. But I do like the over, as long as it's 49 or fewer. A little while, like an hour ago, there were 48.5s out there. So the over's 3-2 overall for the Canes. 74 combined with the North Carolina game last week. 81 combined. In the A&M game, Van Dyke throws for 391 and 4 touchdowns, albeit with 2 picks against the Tar Heels last week. But he's having a good bounce back year. 70.5 completion percentage, 1,721 passing yards, 16-6 TDINT ratio. He's got 2 really good receivers, and Restrepo and Jacoby George. The Canes are number 7 nationally in total offense, number 14 in passing yards, number 13 in scoring, 37.7. Now, I know they've had some lower scoring games, but that was, mainly against, G5 and FCS competition, as, they played Bethune-Cookman, they played Miami of Ohio, they played Temple. And look, the Georgia Tech game was a low-scoring game, and I know Ja Tech has had some higher-scoring games. There were 7 turnovers in that game combined, so that's what kept that game from low scoring. And speaking of Picassos and masterpieces, I tell you what, man, I was on Stanford in 2018 when Mario Cristobal pulled that nonsense, and I was not on Georgia Tech, nor did I have any interest in that game. But I was at a friend's house who had the triple TV setup, and I forget, some game had just ended, and we actually put the volume on right as they fumbled on when they should have been kneeling. Cristobal, oh my God, that guy. Wow. And the audacity of him to walk into that press conference and to not immediately say, this one's on me, and alleviate all his players from wrongdoing immediately shows what a moron and a coward that guy is. And like, he had the audacity to mention 2 hands and ball security about the running back fumbling. Like, why is the running back fumbling? Because you've got him running the ball when you should be taking a knee. Victory formation is the goal of the game. That's the formation you want to be in. victory formation. Am I wrong? So anyhow, I like the over. That I just had to
It,
comment on that.
it was inexplicable and the biggest boneheaded moment that I've seen in a very long time. And I've seen a lot of boneheaded moments, but he did it before when he was at Oregon too. It's like,
Yeah, I had
you,
Stanford
if
that game.
you,
I had it.
yeah, if you have the win, you take a knee. Like, come on.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no stat worth a one score. Now, if you're up by 9 or more, I guess maybe, but still no. I don't care. You don't know
right.
because they can onside kick. You just don't do it. So not even maybe. So as dumb as this guy is, let's go and bet on him.
Well, I tell you, I do lean. I lean Miami. I just don't want to root for those dirtbags. And if
I
Mario Cristobal costs me a win, I would just hate myself, and
I'm not
I'm not going
watching
to
this
allow that
game.
to happen.
I'm gonna follow this game on my phone while I'm watching 3 other games. But Miami's defense is just a little bit under Clemson right now. You've seen it in action. Um, maybe it's I mean they stopped A&M really good, and they've played some easy teams, but I think Clemson's played like Charleston Southern and some pretty FAU and some other easy teams themselves. And Clemson's got a great defense, but um, they don't have an offense, in my opinion. They don't have the T. Higgins and the Trevor Lawrences and Deshaun Watsons that they did in the past. DeAndre Hopkins, guys like that. And Miami lost that game to 4 turnovers last week to 0 with North Carolina. I mean, that's what happens to road teams most likely. But they almost equaled North Carolina in yards, 480 to 500. They lost it in the third quarter, being outscored 21-0. Then they outscored North Carolina in the fourth quarter. Miami's offense averages 7.33 yards per play, ranking 7th in the nation. Clemson is at 5.74, ranking in the middle. Tyler Van Dyke ranks 10th in QBR to Cade Klubnik, ranking 59th. Van Dyke was banged up a little bit, and this is why it went to 4. And I was pissed. I took the early number at 3. I'm like, how is this going on here? And it's obvious they should be playing now. I think this thing closes at 2.5, but Miami's got some playmakers. This shouldn't be a home dog at +3. I have this game at pick'em myself. I'm taking the 3 for 2.5 stars, my man. And I'm not a big fan of Cristobal, but I mean, after what happened, he has to clean some things up.
Yeah, and somebody just needs to tell him every game you go into a game with the one goal of being in victory formation at some point. So why not just when it's time to get in victory formation? Get in victory formation, homeboy. No,
Mm-hmm.
that's all I
Army
got on that.
LSU. That's fine. Army LSU -30, total
Yeah,
58.
yeah, no,
This is an interesting game to pick. Here's all I'm going to say. You have the floor, my man. This is just a weird game to me. But if this was college basketball, I'd be all over Army because this is that situation dead in the middle of conference play. A team's thinking about winning their conference, and a team's thinking about winning their, getting in the playoffs or getting their seed, whatever. Obviously in the NCAA tournament, I'd be all over Army in this position. But right now, it's just weird because it's football, and LSU has 2 losses, and you might have something better than I do on it.
well, it's just an automatic play on the over until over loses for LSU. So the over is 7-0 for LSU this year. It's on an 11-0 run dating back to the last 4 games of last season, and it's on a 15-1 roll in LSU's last 16 games. And the only under in this 16 game stretch for LSU was at Arkansas last year when it was like 12 degrees with wind in the Ozarks, and KJ Jefferson was out with an injury. So LSU's combined scores this year have been 69, 82, 55, which is the outlier and would, be an under with this line. But then 65, 104, 88, and 60. And the 55, the lowest scoring game, was when they won 41-14 at Mississippi State. They were up 34-7 with 3.5 minutes left in the third quarter, and they just hit the brakes offensively. They were just trying to kill clock and get on the airplane without any injuries. And so that's why that game only had 55, or else it would have had more.
Mm-hmm.
LSU's second in the nation in total offense, third in scoring. They're averaging 45.3 points per game. Number 7 in passing yards, number 11 in rushing yards. But defensively, they're terrible. They're 112 in total defense, 116 in pass defense, number 90 at defending the run, number 101 in scoring D. Their games are averaging combined scores of 75.6 points per game. I won't bore you with Jaden Daniels' stats, but they are nasty. So are Logan Diggs' stats. He's third in the SEC in rushing yards. Malik Neighbors leads the nation in receiving yards. Now, Army's 20th in the nation in rushing yards. I am a slight concern because Army's quarterback got a little banged up last week, but there was a report yesterday that he's progressing and is hopeful to play. And they do have their best receiver is listed as questionable as well. But again, this is just an automatic play. Let's see, how many of LSU's overs have I had this year? I had it against the Knowles. I can't remember if I had it against Arkansas. I had it against Ole Miss, had it against Missouri, and I did not have it last week because I did not trust Auburn's offense. So I think I'm at least 3-0 on it this year, maybe 4-0. I can't remember if I had it against Arkansas or not. But anyhow, yeah, and this is it's not their lowest total of the year, but it's one of the lower totals of the year for them.
Well, it's funny. I'm not even sure if their defense can stop Army. So there you go. Army's also
1 week
sneaky passes. They can pass the ball a little bit now. So
yeah. And that's why I looked at that the receiver that's questionable. I looked at his stats. I was like, man, he had a lot of receiving yards for Army in mid-October. So I think only a week to prepare for this type of offense. And but I mean, I think LSU, I didn't even look at their team total, but I think they obviously get most of it. But I like it over.
All right, my man. Well, let's get into some of the big dogs then. We have Tennessee versus Alabama, and Alabama's laying 8.5 points. Total is 49. I'll go first. I'm gonna play Alabama, and I'm playing because of a few different reasons. For one, I think that Tennessee has had a very easy strength of schedule. This is only their second true road game. Their first, they got demolished by a Florida Gators team with a quarterback that you and I are both quite familiar with. And, it's the same thing. It's almost the same handicap as I said when I was talking about Florida, Tennessee. Florida's a home team. Tennessee is a home team. Both teams stink on the road. And don't think that Nick Saban has not been thinking about this revenge game for a year now. As a matter of fact, in some of his interviews, you can see a Tennessee logo sitting on his desk in this situation. Tennessee, metrically, looks like this should be close to pick them. They have a net yard per play advantage of 0.4. Alabama's numbers, though, are a little skewed from that doghouse Jalen Milroe game when he was in the doghouse against a rainy University of South Florida game. That was an ugly game. I was watching it. I was hoping for an upset personally, but
sure, of course you were.
I mean, you could tell, and they were ahead by they were beating Arkansas that first half, and you can tell they started looking a little ahead, in my opinion, to this Tennessee game. I think this team's just been itching to play Tennessee, in Milroe or Joe Milton, on the road is just a possible train wreck. You know what's funny about Tennessee? Last year, they were number 1 in explosive plays. This year, they're 107th in explosive plays.
Are they really?
107th in offensive explosiveness this year. And I have the stat. I can pull it up and share it here. It's pulled right from CFB data. But I think that Saban could wipe the floor with the Vols this week. I think this is the game they've been waiting on. Texas A&M got beat, believe it or not, on the ground because they're trying to cover the receivers, and somehow Tennessee was able to run the ball. But Alabama has one of the best run Ds, allowing only 3 yards per rush, ranking 9th in defensive rushing success rate. So they're not going to be able to move the ball. And I don't believe Joe Milton's going to be able to throw the ball. I think Alabama's defense has been keeping it in. Milroe's going to get a little confidence this game. What's wrong with taking Bama single digits, my man, over the last 10 years of what we've seen? Nothing, in my opinion. I'm taking a -8.5 for 2.5 stars.
I hear you. So I made the number 7. Oh, and by the way, the number was on the move a little while ago. Yeah, there's some books at 9. Caesars was 9.5 a couple hours ago, but it's back to 9. Yeah, look, I'm not saying I'm playing Tennessee. I'm not saying that by any means. Just based on my numbers, I would slightly lean that way. But again, like you were saying, I think
It's 8.5
Tennessee.
at Betfred here, 8.5 and 48.5. So
Okay, yeah. So I mean, I think your comments on the home away dichotomy for the Gators and the Vols is dead spot on. So yeah, I don't know that I'll be on this game. And I think the total's a good number as well. Where I would maybe get involved if you know if an in game opportunity presents itself and Tennessee doesn't appear rattled and Milton is not like making mistakes and a plus 14ish would pop second quarter or so if Alabama's up 7 or so. I mean, maybe I would think about that. In other words, I don't think I can get to the window on the Tennessee unless I'm getting double digits, and maybe an in-game opportunity where you're getting 14. Now, on the flip side of that, if Tennessee were to get off to the good start and I could get Alabama at like -3 or fewer, like I did with Liberty last night, -2.5 live, I would be all about that. So I'm probably going to be looking to bet this one live if something appeals to me. But based on my numbers, I guess a slight lean to Tennessee, but I don't trust Tennessee on the road. But I don't trust this Alabama team either. I had them against Texas. That was obviously a dud. And then I had Ole Miss against them, and I lost that. And then I have passed on them 3 weeks in a row. So let's see. Yeah, I'm 0-2 on Alabama games this year. And let me tell you something. That is not normal. I usually crush Alabama games,
yeah.
but it has not been good to me this year, and I don't have a great feel on this one.
All right, my man. Well, let's move on to maybe the biggest game. Oh, yeah, it is the biggest game of the weekend. Penn State versus Ohio State. And Ohio State is +4, total 46.5. Both teams are undefeated. You know what's really funny is looking at these totals. I mean, what would this Alabama-Tennessee total was in the high 60s, 70s. Now it's at 48.5. And you have Penn State, Ohio State. It looks like an NFL total at 46.5. I think that a lot of teams are just kind of following what the Eagles are doing in both leagues and just kind of sitting on the ball a little bit, trying to get the win that way with the clock, which is very boring football. But it is what it is, and that's why the unders have been hot, especially in the NFL. But we got a low total here in Ohio State's +4. But I'm playing this game like I always do, Brian. I know I've had you on talking about this in the past, this game. I'm doing the same thing. Penn State first half, Ohio State second half, and I'm betting them right away. But here's the reasons. Ohio State and Penn State.
I'm sorry. Say that again. How are you doing it?
Penn State first half +2.5, and I'm even giving the play before I go in the cap. Ohio State second half -1.5, because this kind of covers you a little bit. And of course, everything can go south, obviously. But I mean, the way I look at it is that Ohio State has not really been starting games great. The first time they finally did was against Purdue here, but against Maryland, they didn't start well. Against Notre Dame, they didn't start all that well. They don't seem to get going until the second half. And this is kind of how it's been with Penn State here. I mean, metrically, these two teams are very similar, but Ohio State has a net yards per play advantage of 0.83. And Penn State, the reason that they look so good is because they've also played nobody. They've been beating not the children of the poor, the stepchildren of the poor. When they played Iowa got hurt that game. I think that was when McNamara and their tight end got hurt. I think it just spun out of control for them. And you know how Franklin is. He wants to put one on teams and bully them around. But whenever he steps up to the competition, when he plays a top 10 team, he loses. How can you bet him for the whole game against a top 10 team? Now, my power number has Ohio State minus 4.75. I'm still higher on my power ratings. If I wasn't, then I would have Ohio State minus 3 if I was equal. I have Ohio State favored here. But I just think it's a great spot to play it this way, because if I'm right about this, you're not only going to get the plus 2.5. If they're tied at halftime, you win, right? If they're tied, there's no ties at the end of the game. You get plus 2.5. Let's say Penn State's up by a touchdown. Ohio State's going to be laying minus 6.5 in the second half. Right now, you can bet Ohio State second half minus 1.5. So you don't have to worry about that. And if you think Ohio State's going to win anyway, you assume that maybe they're going to outscore Penn State in the second half anyway. So I like taking it now. Like, plenty of books offer the second half bet at DraftKings, at FanDuel, at many books. So I just think that Penn State is a better starter, and they'll kind of get things going. And Ohio State kind of feels things out a little bit. And you can even see with the coach there, Ryan Day, he seems to be a really good adjustment coach at the half, and he seems to get the kids in position to win the game for the second half. Now, guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Julian Fleming are the kind of guys that maybe can be Penn State's cornerbacks, especially when they tire out a little bit. I think that Ohio State has the defense this year, and it's not being talked about enough. Ohio State's defense that could slow down Penn State's run game with their 2 stud running backs. And I think they're going to know what to look for. These two coaches know each other. That's why you see the low total. They know how to stop each other. My number, like I said, is 4.5, but I just like the way I'm betting it. I'm taking the 2.5 for a little bit more in the first half and a little bit less. I'll take Ohio State for example, 1.5 stars in the second half. Take Penn State for 2 stars plus 2.5 for the first half. So that's the way I'm playing it. It's been working out over the years, and I'm going to have some fun watching this one.
So let me get this straight. So pre-game, and maybe this is just because you've got gambling legal in Arizona, you get a second half line pre-game, like, because I get like a quarter, like third quarter, fourth quarter, you can bet pre-game. I'm not familiar with being able to bet the second half pre-game. You can do that, huh?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't have that option. I didn't. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I bet a lot of second halves at halftime, like during halftime. But yeah, no, I didn't know. I don't have that option. I've got 3 different accounts, and I feel like they offer
Let
a
me share my
slew of.
screen. Let me
Yeah,
share
yeah,
my
yeah,
screen.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, unfortunately, I did bet this, and I don't know why they changed it. Well, who knows? Ohio State's now plus money minus 3.5 in the second half. So
Oh, okay.
I got a pretty good line there, I guess. I would take Ohio State minus 2.5 in the second half. So just like, I
And
got
they're
1.5.
plus 3.5 in the second half.
Yeah, Penn State's plus 3. Penn State is plus 2.5 minus 108. I got it at minus 102 on DraftKings earlier. And earlier today, I took them at minus 1.5 for minus 110. So now this moved up, and I don't know, maybe I have enough followers, but Penn State doesn't. Ohio State, the DraftKings didn't like that so much, so they moved it to 3.5 plus 102. But this will move around, and you can get it out of their books. But you can see, you can bet the spread of the second half right now here at DraftKings and other books, and that's the way I love playing this game. Right now, I would find a 2.5 or less personally, just because 3 points are kind of key. And you don't have to win the game by 3. You have to win the second half by the 1.5 or 2.5 that you bet, right?
Sure.
So Penn State's up by 3. The live number on the second half is going to be Ohio State minus 5.5 because the spread's 4.5 already. So you know that the second half is not going to be as good if Penn State's winning. If it's even, I'm guessing Ohio State would be minus 3, for example, win by 3 points because it's such a key number. So, just forecasting what happens during these games. I love betting this way. And if you can find some books that offers this, I highly recommend it, Brian.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have any that are. I mean, obviously I could go to, like, I got a 3-hour drive to Biloxi, Mississippi in a pretty cool sports book, but I don't think I'm gonna make that drive this weekend. But Penn State has covered. This is crazy. I mean, they're 13-0 ATS in the last 13. But I get it. Franklin has not been very good. Against highly ranked teams, and They pay him a lot of money. It's time to win one, and this is as good an opportunity as he's had in a long time. I don't think I'm gonna have a play in this game. If I had to play it pregame, I would play the over. I mean, you look at their recent head-to-head scores. So they had 75 combined last year, 57 the year before that. And then they had 63 the year before that. Um, and I see, did you say 46.5 earlier? Because I see 40, a lot of books at 45.5 now. Let me hit refresh, make
Yeah,
sure.
that's possible. It might have went down even a little bit more. I have to do a weather check here, but it's an early game. It's a 9 a.m. game, 45 and a half now.
Yeah,
I'll quick get a weather update here on this game. Um, Covers is
well,
pretty good about it. I go deeper usually on weather.gov. 12.3 miles per hour winds. Chance of rain
that's
39%. It's not enough.
that's not
It's
enough
not
to
enough.
impact
No,
an
no,
overplay, not at
not
all.
at
In
all.
fact,
Not at
at
all.
45 is a key number. So if it gets there, maybe I would think about a small play on the over. But yeah, I just want to watch this one, and maybe something develops in game. Um, And yeah, I don't have a strong opinion. And like you said, I mean, just Penn State really hasn't played anybody. Now, to their credit, they've covered all of them. They've dominated, et cetera, et cetera. But I think we find out a lot more about Penn State and the young quarterback who has, to his credit, not ever been intercepted in college football. I mean, I know it's only his second year, but good on him.
Good on him, man. Second year of modest playing. I guess Sean Clifford somehow was drafted in the NFL, and if you can explain that to me, I would love to hear why the hell that happened. But either way, this is gonna. I'm so happy this is early because I like getting the big game down with early and all that emotion, especially if you're betting on it. I'm kind of glad that this one is going to be a nice early game for us. They don't want these night games no more because it's so hard to play in Happy Valley with a whiteout, man. And these two teams kind of like, screw you, I'm done at that. We're just playing this game at 9, and you're seeing more and more of that in these big games, Brian.
Yeah, I if it's a big rivalry game, I hate it. Well, I live in, well, you live Pacific time. Oh wait, are you Mountain time zone?
I'm Pacific until November, then I'm Mountain because the rest of the United States can't figure out that daylight saving time is an absolute farce and needs to be eliminated immediately.
Yeah, so I'm Central. So whenever they change the time here in what I guess in the next like 3 weeks or so, yeah, it starts getting dark at like 4:45 p.m. here. So
It's 5:30, like almost now. I mean, here's the thing: we also when it's mountain time, it's a little different. But yeah, when we're on Pacific time, it gets dark quicker here. So it's funny because we shouldn't be, and that's the shitty thing. Let's just say they got rid of daylight saving time, they'd stick us on mountain time. Vegas would stay west time, but we would be screwed on mountain time. And I hate mountain time because that way we with Denver. That's the only major city that's mountain time. It's kind of like we're the weird ones. I'm constantly adjusting my calendar back and forth for all that stuff. So I won't complain too much that the rest of the United States does it because I enjoy being on Pacific time, watching my early games, going to bed at the grand old time of midnight for my Colorado State versus Colorado game, right? So
yeah.
I'm okay with that, my man.
Yeah, but like in general, no, I don't like the noon Eastern games, and I really hated when Florida and FSU would play at noon Eastern, and we don't really play at noon much anymore, thank goodness. And I hate that Michigan, Ohio State's always at noon. Just I don't know, I don't really. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind having a big bet on a noon game, but like if it's my Gators or just a monster game, I'd just rather be. And we SEC folks are accustomed to the 3:30 Eastern
Yeah.
kick, but I'm not against night games either.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, night games are more exciting, but it's also gives you a little extra stress, especially if it's your team.
Sure.
It's one of those situations. Well, hey, let's do some hodgepodge. Why don't you pick a game coming up this weekend? I'll throw out Washington State, Oregon. My numbers don't have Oregon favored by 20, but is this that spot where Oregon gets it right and Washington State just had that crapper loss against Arizona last week? I guess I have to check the injury report. I don't know what the hell happened there. I didn't get to rewatch that game or anything. I just did not have the time. But that was just another situation I missed out on with Arizona. The spread was 7.5. I'm like, man, Washington State is a really good team because I was kind of high on them too. But I'm not getting much on the injury. Just their tight ends a little banged up. But I don't have 20. I probably have this at like 14 or something. I mean,
Yeah, no,
go ahead.
no, I agree, but I've got the Washington State Arizona game DVR Pac-12 and 60, and I will check it out tonight and just see what I'm missing. Now I know Arizona's good, and by the way, that backup quarterback, wow,
Fafita,
yeah, how
yeah,
impressive has that kid been the last
he's
couple of
better than
weeks?
DeLorean. You
I
know,
mean, I was about to say, Delora, you take your time getting better, bud. You have lost your job, and Delora's not bad. I mean, he's pretty good, but this kid is killing it the
well,
last.
they would have beat Mississippi State without the 5-0 turnover ratio.
Right, of course, they should have beat Mississippi State, and they should have beat USC as well, or could have, certainly could have. But yeah, I think the number's too high, but I want to go watch what happened to Wazoo last week because that score was a little concerning. But
Let me know when you do. Text me.
I
Shoot me a
will.
text. I'm
I'll
curious what
text
your
you what I
thoughts are
think
because
when I
this thing
when
going
I
up to 20 is and it's like you think it's a big get up spot, but it's also a tough spot for them to be big favorites after such an exhausting game of coaching failures. I had Oregon +3, and I was furious that I lost that. I was like, "Are you serious?" Lanning not kicking the field goals early, and then all of a sudden you're playing for a field. We remember another team that played for a field goal named Ohio State in the playoffs last year. How'd that work out? College teams shouldn't be playing for field goals. You do
are
not
these
let your field goal kicker decide if you're going to tie the game. You go for the touchdown, especially when Washington's defense has been giving you the receiving yards the whole single game.
I think these coaches are just getting worse and worse and worse. I feel like I'm just a negative Nancy or Nathan, like on
Field goal,
Twitter every week because I just have to call it out. I'm just like, what are these like?
yeah.
I mean,
We're all
they're
doing it.
so bad. They get
Yeah.
paid millions of dollars and they don't have any idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
None. It's
Yeah.
great. It might be worse in the NFL than it is in college. How scary is that?
It's insane to me, and it makes me like, holy cow! The interview process must be quite simple in some of these situations. If some of these jokers are getting jobs. Look at the Bears defensive coordinator. I don't even know if he did anything all summer, and he abruptly quits. And there's weird allegations and teams lying about it constantly, lying to our faces. They've always lied to us, the Bears organization. But I mean, this is just absolutely insane to me. I don't know how this happens. No,
So, well, did you tell me to throw out another game?
yeah. Why don't you throw out one more, and then I'll
Can
ask you quickly about UFC.
can I go NFL with the one I'm throwing out?
Yeah, throw it out. Yeah, let's go.
Well, actually, I'll just go two, but I'll keep it real quick. So let's go under 40 on Saints Jags, and it doesn't matter to me I mean, obviously Trevor doesn't play, all the better. But the under's on a 12-0 run for New Orleans, 15-1 in its last 16. Their six combined scores this year: 33, 34, 35 twice, 37 and 31. And then the combined scores from the last six of last year to get it to 12-0 were 17, 30, 27, 39, 33, and 13. The only their last over November 20th of 2022 was a 27 to 20 game, and then to get to 15-1, the three before that Rams game that went over were 30, 40, and 24. And yeah, so I'm on the under there. And the Saints have got some
Issues.
O line injuries. Oh yeah, yeah.
Ramchek's out, dude. It was just reported about an hour ago that Ramchek is out. I
Yep.
think Lawrence plays, but it's not the greatest spot for the Jaguars. It's a bad spot for the Jaguars. Also
Yeah.
Hurst is out. They said here, as well. So I got to look into that. But yeah, Ramchek's their best player.
And then and Andrews Pete, another starter on New Orleans line, is questionable, so we'll see on him. But the other player is going to be Tampa Bay -3 against the Falcons. The Falcons have left Atlanta twice this year, and lost by 14 both times. And Atlanta is 0-5 ATS last 5. And I know Baker Mayfield's a little banged up, but I got no problem with that. My man Kyle Trask, and that's not just my Gatorness. I think Kyle Trask is ready to ball out. He's been ready to ball out his whole life. Every time they give him a chance, he just balls out. That's all
You
he
think he's going
does.
to play? Is he going to play?
Well, I just saw Mayfield's questionable, so I mean, I don't know. It's his hand. It's a hand injury. I think it's his throwing hand. No, I'm not saying
No,
he's. I'm not.
it's his left non-throwing hand contusion. But
Oh, okay.
there's always an excuse for this guy if he has a bad game, in my opinion. I don't know. I wonder. I drafted Trask in the Dynasty Fantasy draft like a couple years ago, and he hasn't gotten anywhere. And I finally dropped him just because I'm like, you're gonna let Baker Mayfield beat you out. Then you played in the NFL for 2 years, forget about it. I had to drop him, but I'm wondering why he hasn't won the job.
Well, I mean, I'm wondering the same thing. I thought he played great in the preseason. Every time they were showing film on Twitter of them throwing practice throws, Trask's throws were a lot better. I think they made a decision. Well, first off, Todd Bowles is an idiot. But second off, I think they had it in their mind. Let's go with a veteran because he'll be easier to yank if it doesn't go well. Whereas if you yank Trask, but whatever the case, if Trask gets in, I think he'll play well. But more than anything, we're just fading the Falcons. Arthur Smith is the worst coach in the NFL. I mean, last week Atlanta had where is it? Am I right? Oh, here it is. 402 to 193 advantage in total offense, 25 to 13 advantage in first downs. And this idiot goes for it when they cut it to 8. And these analytic people drive me crazy. I'm just like, hey, I got all your analytics between my ears. And guess what? You're still wrong. Anyway,
I'm pissed. I was on the Falcons last week, and they outgained by over double the yards, and they don't even sniff the money line I had. What the hell was that? I am very upset with that. Now I don't let my emotions control my bets for the next week. I have to remember that the reasons why I did bet on them. But
don't bet the Falcons this week.
I'm not. I was looking. Good. I was looking towards Tampa Bay, but Baker looked awful too, and it was unexplainable. He was just missing his guys by 10 yards. I was like, Baker, Evans, was wide open. Godwin was wide open. What are you doing, dude? It's like, you can easily get back in this game and cover my freaking spread, buddy. I think I had 3.5. I mean, it was just, I think I teased him too. It was just a bad game for me. And, it was just unexplainable how bad this guy was last week.
Oh yeah. I had some live bets on the Falcons that, plus 4.5, plus 6.
Yeah.
Lost those.
Yeah. For
Arthur
sure.
Smith's so bad. I can't wait for him to get fired, but I'm not confident it'll be anytime soon because he is committing coaching malpractice by not getting Kyle Pitts 12 to 15 targets per game. It's utter insanity.
I hear that from you every week, my man, and I agree with you. But it's one of those things that he was a Gator and you love him, and I agree he's better than Jonnu. It's like, why are you focusing on Jonnu? Get it to Pitts. He's big. He can't miss. He's fast. Get the ball to Pitts. What are you doing? And
he's unstoppable if you throw it to him. And when you want to if you want to force feed him, like Georgia's been doing Bowers before the injury, which that's why I don't like Georgia, but I think Carson Beck is an absolute stud because at crunch time he just force feeds that guy. If you're gonna force feed him, Desmond Ridder, throw it high. He will go up and get it. Like whenever he throws it to him in double coverage, he's like throwing like sinker balls into the dirt. I'm just like, God, he will go up over any DB in the league, period. End of story. And that's it. Just throw it up.
Yeah, anyway. Throw it up. Grab it. Jeez. All right. Well, hey, real quick, we got a minute. Any UFC 294 thoughts? I mean, this event turned into like from kind of like to like one of the greatest because you have Usman now fighting Khamzat. And now you have the rematch with Volkanovski versus Islam, man. I mean, it's like, are you serious? And this is early, buddy. The fight started at 7 a.m. The main card starts at 10 a.m. Pacific time. 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 Central. I mean, nice little wake up call, my friend.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'm fired up. I still want to go watch a bunch of the media stuff, which started at like 1 a.m. or my time last night, and I was about to watch some of it. I was like, no, come on, I gotta go to bed. But I still need to. I haven't decided on any plays. All I'll say is that I'm way more excited about the new fights than the previous matchups. Way more excited, and that just hat tip and thumbs up to all four guys for taking these matchups, one on
Yeah.
11 days notice, another on 10. Now, I think Volkanovski's got a much better chance to pull the upset. I take that back. I saw a lot. I haven't bet it yet, but I saw a lot. I might put a little bit on, not a lot, but maybe just a little baby play on Volk at plus 500 to win by decision. I do think that one goes the distance, but I don't know that
In
the
Abu
odds.
Dhabi, and that's the problem. You know what's in Abu Dhabi? It's the same religion that the two
Hamza or
comes out
Shemaya, yeah,
and Islam. It's like,
sure.
and that worries me. And here's the thing: I think these are the two opponents that are the best equipped to beat them, even though it's technically in the higher weight class, not the welterweight, but the middleweight for both of these guys, because Usman and Kamza just got too strong and he can't make middleweight no more, or can't make
Yeah,
welterweight no more, right? So he's a
right.
middleweight guy now. And Usman comes off the couch. He's middleweight right now. And I just feel like Strickland and Izzy would be beaten by at least Kamzat, maybe Usman as well. It's like, I just think that I would have bet Kamzat versus Strickland. I would have bet Kamzat versus Izzy. But man, this Usman scares me a little bit because he's a tough MFer and he knows how to hold people against the cage. But is he as strong as Kamzat? I don't know. And that's why Kamzat's a massive favorite here. But what are you doing being this big of a massive favorite when there's 3 rounds of decision? It's like it's 3 rounds. I'm thinking I'm going to bet all uh, Muslim fighters by decision because you're in Abu Dhabi here, and there's just a lot of situations where I can see them siding on that side, and there's all kinds of trouble going right now in the Middle East. It's just I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I'm blindly doing anything, but I mean I'm leaning in that direction, Brian.
Yeah, no, I hear that, and I don't think I'd put a lot of thought in that, and so I will take that to heart. And again, I wasn't talking about throwing a lot. It was a plus 500 bet, but
In
what was
America, I might be betting Volk. I mean,
right?
seriously.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think there's probably is something to what you're talking about. Like I don't bet anything by decision when they have fights in Texas. But the last thing I'll say on Chimaev, um, I think he's eventually going to be the light heavyweight champion too. I think he's eventually going to go up 205 in the next 5 years, and he'll be the champion
Oh,
there as well. That's how much I think of this guy. He is a monster.
he's a psychopath, man. I'm going to share a video. That video you sent me, I'm going to share that baby. That is ridiculous, especially for Halloween. It's kind of one of those. Woo!
Yeah,
Oh man, I would not want to go against. But what I will say is when he finally stepped up in competition, he didn't look so good, and a lot of people were saying that he wasn't necessarily the big winner of that fight. And people say that about Islam versus Volk too, in that first fight that they had. But when Khamzat fought Gilbert Burns, he got beat up. He got bloodied. It was the first time you kind of saw the champion's cut. The champion's cut. What was that, Rocky or something?
yeah.
It's almost
Drago,
like
Rocky
yeah,
four, Rocky four.
yeah, he's cut. And the same thing happened when he fought Gilbert Burns. And then he's look at his wins. You're like, Jing Lang Lee, okay. Gerald Mearshart, Rise McGee, John Phillips. I mean, he didn't beat a lot of guys, that's literally his UFC career. Then Kevin Holland's a stick, he's like, he's tough and he's good against some, but he's not going to beat up Khamzat. And Khamzat beat him up, put him in the choke quickly. But Gilbert Burns and Kamaru Usman do not get taken down. I mean, his takedown defense is 97%, and Khamzat's, of course, is 100%. I mean, so that makes me think Khamzat by decision is the value if you're not betting Usman to knock his ass out. So there's just a lot of ways to look at it.
Usman's 100% takedown defense will end in round 1, I believe.
Okay.
I think that's a safe bet.
Well, I also will say that I believe that the welterweight was a weak division, and it was top heavy with Usman before it. You had Covington there, right? And Leon Edwards finally got his opportunity. I was on Leon Edwards the first fight and the second fight. But
that had to be a fun knockout for you if you were on Edwards that night.
It was. It freaking was. It was about a year ago, that first one. And the next one went to a majority decision, really. And that was actually in England, too. So, I mean, we can go on for a while talking about it, but this is going to be exciting, Brian. And I'm excited after this podcast is over, I'm going to dig deep into the UFC, my friend.
Yeah, I'm about to go to YouTube and watch a bunch of I'm definitely going to watch Chimaev's entire media scrum, like right when I get off with you, for sure.
It's gonna be a hell of a watch, my man. Well, great stuff. Where could our listeners and viewers get your great information and plays for the weekend?
Well, you've already mentioned it. So my picks are at vegasinsider.com. My Twitter right there at Vegas B Edwards. Now, I do have a new gig I'm doing. I'm now an analyst for this company called Southeastern 14. It's basically just a YouTube channel, and I do a gambling show with my buddy Jay Greason every Thursday. It's called Bets and Ball Games with Edwards and Greason. It should be out sometime tomorrow night, if not first thing Friday morning. And we break down all the SEC games and I give our non-SEC picks, and they can find that at Southeastern 14's YouTube channel, or they can follow on Twitter at 14 Southeastern. It's daily SEC football and basketball content. Not that I do baseball, but even some college baseball in the late spring and early summer. So once again, Kiev, man, enjoyed it. Thanks so much for having me. And I hope good luck this weekend. I hope we both kill it. It should be a great weekend, especially with that sweet UFC card.
Oh, it's going to be a fun weekend, Brian. I hope you kill it as well. Let's do it. Make sure you guys check out Brian at Vegas B Edwards. We'll be texting, Brian.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.